My name is Abubaker. I wasn't there in 1948, but my life began in its shadow. It was early spring in 1948, in the village of Beit Daras, not far from the town of Al-Majder. My grandfather, Mahmoud, owned a small shop. He lived with my grandmother, Fatima, who was pregnant, and their two sons, Ahmed and Muhammad. Life was unfolding as usual. The fields were green, the sky full of birds, sparrows, storks flying home. But that day, the bird song stopped. The air went still. A sudden roar shook the earth, louder than thunder. Mortars fired from the north, from kibbutz to Bia. Fire rained down on the village. 9 neighbors were killed. The orchards that fed families were set ablaze. From that day on, all they remembered were the screams and the smell of their village burning. But the horror didn't end. On May 21st, 1948, the settlers' militia surrounded the village. They told the villagers, "Women, children and the elderly may leave," but it was a trap. They let the villagers walk out, then open fire. Mortars from one side, machine guns from the other. Bombs fell like sand. Bullets tore through the cactus hedges. A boy named Ramsey and his little sister ran through the fields, stumbling, rising, stumbling again. They were among the few who escaped. My grandfather's family, too, but many did not. Days after the massacre, those who survived had no choice but to leave. My grandfather remembered the chaos. People crying, shouting, confused, trying to carry whatever they could. He walked barefoot, holding his 2 sons, feeling every stone and thorn under his feet. It was a long walk. He left behind his home, his land, his history. One woman lost her baby in the panic. He had slipped from her arms as they fled. She found him hours later, crying alone among the cactus. No one knew where they were going. They only knew one thing: they were not allowed to stay. My grandfather fled south with his family. He stayed briefly in Khan Yunis, then ended up in a small tent near the beach of Deir el-Balah. Rows of tents stretched across the sand. Thousands of families like this, displaced, and starting over with nothing. The sea was always close, but brought no comfort. Emptiness settled into everything, like the sand beneath their feet. The pain touched every part of life. Thin tents trembled against the wind, leaked in the rain, and offered no warmth on cold nights. My grandfather missed his village. My grandmother missed her home. My uncles, they missed everything. It was a cold day in January when my grandmother gave birth to Aisha. For a moment, there was joy. By then, my grandfather had a small shop near the Deir el-Balah market. A few days later, the sky roared. Israeli planes flew low toward the aid center by the market. Hundreds of refugees stood in line, waiting for food. Without warning, bombs fell. They destroyed everything. The line became a mass of bodies. Some say 100 were killed, others say 250. No one could count the pieces. One family had just welcomed a newborn that morning. The father ran to find a doctor. He never came back. My grandfather spent the rest of his life in the refugee camp. Still waiting to return, he refused to buy land as the family grew. Camp tents turned to bricks, bricks turned to cement, but the pain stayed the same. My grandfather had 2 more children, Hamda and my father, Wissam. Wissam was born in 1964, in a time of trauma, dislocation, and the planting of resistance. He was just 3 when the Israeli army occupied Gaza. By 1970, illegal settlements rose near the camp. More land was stolen. To protect that theft, they built fences, watchtowers, and checkpoints. In 1987, First Intifada began. It started when an Israeli truck ran over Palestinian refugees. People rose up, boys threw stones in protest. Israel answered by breaking their bones. Oppression only grew. Life became curfews, raids, and arrests. Gaza began to look like a ghetto. My grandfather passed away in 1992, carrying with him over 44 years of hope to return to Beit Daras. Then came peace, or the promise of it, the promise of a state, but it came wrapped in a 40-kilometer fence after decades of siege.
طي صفحة الآلام والعذاب التي استمرت طوال هذا القرن وأن يفتتح عهد السلام والتعايش والمساواة في الحقوق.
I was born in 2002, the year Israel killed 192 Palestinian children. My father gave me his Persian name, Abubaker. One day I asked him, why that name? He said, because you will carry a message and hopes across the world. Like him, I grew up in the camp, but by then it was more crowded than ever. The siege had tightened, so many things were not allowed in. There was no land left to build on. I spent my days running through the alleys, chasing dreams all the way to the beach. I was too young when I learned that the machine of death chases children. Not just those sleeping in their mother's arms, not just those sheltering schools, not just those picking strawberries in the fields, but even those kicking a ball by the sea. Israeli naval forces fired 3 missiles at a group of boys playing soccer. 4 of them were killed. They were my age. Throughout my life, Israeli offensives kept coming, each with a biblical name, each leaving deeper wounds. Then came October the 7th, a rupture in decades of silence, after generations caged by siege and dispossession in the face of an injustice older than me, older than my parents. From that day, Israel stripped us of our humanity, while the world watched the genocide unfold. The horrors only grew. Hunger, thirst laid siege to our bodies. Bombs to homes. Darkness to our future. They took from me Al-Hassan Matar, my best friend. So many lives stolen, too many to count. But we counted. We counted the children killed, the dreams buried, lost breaths beneath collapsed homes and schools, missing limbs, books burned to ashes, shattered tents, the weight of rubble. We counted until there was nothing left to count. In the dark, we passed down the names, each one a flame against forgetting. We are not numbers. My father is an artist and a teacher. Through both, he teaches me how to keep hope alive. I often stand in front of his work, trying to understand what message he wants me to carry, what he wants the world to know about our life on this land. My father says to me, "Dear son, be original, be free, be yourself, and that will be enough for the world to see Palestine." I tell stories. My grandfather held the key to a home that no longer stands. My father carried its memory, woven through color, shape, and light. And I plant a yellow rose in the land of our ancestors, a landscape of memory and promise, blooming from the ashes. And maybe one day, I'll grow that rose in Beit Daras.